Hello folks, and welcome to another edition of the Dr. Mark Foster Show. This is a very somber moment. The first major domestic terrorist attack in the United States since 9/11. I will avoid making any speculations. There are plenty of those around who did it. One report was circulating that there was a Saudi individual who was being interrogated, possible suspect. However, authorities have dismissed that. They have said that that is not true. Typically, in the first hours, even days, after any type of major incident, there are a lot of incorrect information sources, a lot of misinformation that comes out. And so I think that we all need to step back, be careful, not to make any prejudgments on what is happening. I will say that I was very saddened during the official briefing in Boston, press briefing, when one of the individuals who was actually recognized by somebody on the investigation team asked the question, was this a false flag operation? And the fact that people believe in such things is in and of itself unfortunate. But the fact that a person, irrespective of his beliefs, would actually feel free to simply ask that question, which, by the way, he repeated later in the conference. Nobody responded to him, fortunately. Nobody yelled at him. He basically was rightfully ignored. There is a lot of paranoia, obviously. People on the libertarian right afraid that somehow the government is trying to find some way of taking away their firearms. God, guts, and guns. The 3 Gs. The trinity of the libertarian right. And to use a major disaster like this to promote a political agenda like that, especially a far-fetched agenda, one which is grounded in fear and mistrust, is, in my view, unconscionable. What I will say, without introducing any speculations into what happened, all that stuff will, I'm sure, come out in the next few days. Some of it may be right, some of it may be corrected later on. We know that, at least as of now, which is 9:08 p.m. on October 15th, 2013, that 3 people have died. Others have had amputations. It is likely that the death rate will rise. Many people are in critical condition in these hours immediately following any disaster like this. The fatality statistics are always in fluctuation, just as the information is. Now, I'll tell you the main reason why I am making this broadcast at this time. For any of you who happened to listen to my program yesterday, you notice that I was discussing some of the ways in which experiencers, contactees, or whatever one wishes to call them, have been given warnings, allegedly, about future changes in the earth, whether geological or war. And I have had night visions of both, dreams of both of those types of events. Just yesterday morning, I had one such dream. And I usually don't remember my dreams, but I remembered this one, and I will go ahead and read it again, at least based on current information. It was not entirely accurate, but the fact that it was accurate at all is something which I think is interesting. Certainly not bragging about it. I am extraordinarily sad. Sadder than I have been in a long time. I feel tremendous empathy for all of those souls that have suffered in Boston, Massachusetts. But here is the text of what I wrote yesterday morning, April 14th, 2013, at 7 a.m., which is when I woke up. I awoke suddenly following another possibly precognitive dream. As explained in 2 intelligence briefings, with the second spokesperson confirming the first. The U.S. was making emergency preparations for a limited nuclear attack. Unfortunately, the expectation that the source of these operations was North Korea could be a diversion or misdirection. Instead, that country's military and political ally, Iran, acting through domestic terrorist cells, might, successfully or not, be the actual protagonist. Although I saw in the vision a brown spherical bomb, the term suitcase nuke occurred to me. Now, obviously, with any human dream which is filtered through our own minds, imaginations, preconceptions, they are not going to be exact. And for all I know, this dream might have been my imagination, or conversely, it may be a dream that is in reference to some future event. But nonetheless, I found it very significant that the dream that I had occurred literally one day before this terrorist incident, this alleged terrorist incident at the Boston Marathon. The incident occurred at 1:45 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time today. Here is a quotation from the Dallas Morning News by Ted Robertson from today. It's an intriguing speculation, obviously an opinion piece. Robertson wrote, "No one knows who was behind the explosions in Boston today, but it's worth noting that Boston was the location where the 2 planes took off on 9/11 that brought down the World Trade Center in New York, a trademark of Al-Qaeda and its affiliates, is to launch attacks in ways that are highly photogenic, guaranteed to inflict maximum casualties. At least 2 are dead and 100 injured so far. And most important, generate maximum television coverage. So, I think that's an interesting speculation. Whether that has any merit to it, again, we'll find out in time. It's early. The reports are conflicting. Information is rapidly changing. But, at least for me, as some kind of experiencer, and I completely and totally reject that label, abductee. I think it's wrong. There are no abductions. These are angels. They are assisting us. They're not abducting anyone, which is an extraordinarily negative term. I just don't like it. I think it's a really bad word to use in this context. It certainly inspires fear, but little else. Can't see what good it does. These are angelic interventions, and I consider myself an intervent. That's a nice word, I think. Intervents. Better, I think, than abduction. Maybe not better than experiencer. I don't know. But at least it describes what it is that I am referring to when I say angelic intervention. So, somebody who has one is an intervent. Again, I would encourage people listening to this not to jump the gun, not to focus on the first boogeyman that occurs to you, whoever that is, whether it's Muslims, which would inflame the very popular, unfortunate Islamophobia which exists in the United States right now and in some other countries, or making an assumption that it had something to do with North Korea. All of those are unknown. It might, for all we know, be a lone wolf terrorist. We don't know that. So I think it's better not to jump the gun. As an anecdote, I remember following the Oklahoma City bombings, and of course Timothy McVeigh was a principal actor in that. Timothy McVeigh had connections to Kansas, which is where I live right now. I remember the morning after the Oklahoma City bombings, one of my students said, "Wherever that person came from, we should bomb them." Obviously, the person was not thinking about Kansas. The person assumed, I guess, that the individual came from a predominantly Muslim country. I did not do an "I told you so" to the person, but I'm sure that person realized it himself. So that is, I think, another reason not to jump the gun. We don't know. We don't know who this person was. It may be a white supremacist. It may be anybody. We don't know that. It may just be a disgruntled person who was paranoid or angry and perhaps has no agenda, in which case perhaps it'll not be considered terrorism at all when everything is concluded. So please take care. Please don't worry about these things. And and be good to yourself. You know, hug your family and your kids. Tell them that you love them, and be calm and wait for the thing to play out. Until next time, this is Dr. Mark Foster. Have a good one.